Welcome back to another episode of Bloodstained Backstories. I'm your host, Jace.
And I'm your host, Summer.
Paul Michael Stefani was born on September 8th, 1944, and would become known as the Weepy-Voiced Killer. The nickname was coined because he would call police anonymously and report the crimes in a remorseful, high-pitched voice.
Paul was the second of 10 children in a highly religious family in Austin, Minnesota. His parents divorced when he was just 3 years old. His mom would meet someone and get remarried. His stepfather was known to beat his stepchildren and throw them down the stairs.
Paul married Beverly Leiter and had a daughter with her, but they soon divorced in 1975. He struggled to hold down a job and was fired from being a janitor at the Malberg Manufacturing Company in 1977. Much is not known about his family other than the fact that he completely abandoned them and disappeared out of their lives.
He would attack a random woman and be convicted of aggravated assault. Since this was his first offense, he would not spend any time in jail. Paul would find a girl from Syria, and they dated for a short time. She would leave him to return to Syria because her parents had set up an arranged marriage for her.
And this was said to be the event that caused him to go on the murder spree. He was committing these murders acting like they were his ex wife. On December 30th, 1980, Paul beat Karen Potak, a University of Stevens Point student in St. Paul, Minnesota, with a tire iron, leaving several wounds and so badly that her brain would be exposed. At 3 a.m., he called police with a report of the attack and would tell police the location, where there is a girl hurt there. The police said he told police that she was at Pierce Butler Road at the Malberg Manufacturing Machine Shop. She would later be found laying naked in the snow. She would survive and have no memory of it, and had it not been for that cold night and the snow, she may not have survived at all.
On January 3rd, 1981, Paul's next victim was an 18-year-old named Kimberly Compton. She was a student from Pepton, Wisconsin. He would stab her 61 times with an ice pick in the chest, stomach, and inner thighs. Her body would be found at a freeway construction site 2 days later by a group of teenagers.
After he killed her, he once again called the police to report it.
You, you find me, I just stabbed somebody with an ice pick. I can't stop myself. I keep killing somebody. Yes, please, this is an emergency. Please send a squad to Pierce Butler Road, Molenberg Manufacturing Company, machine shop. Please, there's an ambulance too. There's a girl hurt there.
Can you tell me what happened to her?
There's her. She's laying on the ground in the back by the railroad tracks, by the engine. Please.
What's the address?
I don't know.
Who are you?
Police thought this was a prank at first, but then they realized that they had not released some of the information to the public, such as the murder weapon, and this was something only the killer would know, that it was an ice pick used in the crime. Police were able to trace the call to a payphone at the corner of 9th and St. Peter's Street. When they showed up, though, he was gone. They would later watch that payphone over the course of a couple weeks to see if he would return to use it again, and unfortunately, he did not. Fingerprints could not be collected from the payphone because unfortunately there were so many fingerprints from people using the payphone that they could not tell whose were whose.
2 days later, he called the police again to apologize for stabbing Kimberly.
Don't talk, just listen. I'm sorry what I did to Compton. I couldn't help it. Don't know why I ever stabbed her. I'm so upset about it. I keep getting drunk every night. I can't believe I just had a big dream. I can't think of being locked up. If I get locked up, I'd kill myself. I'd rather kill myself than get locked up. I'll try not to kill anybody else.
On July 21st, 1982, his third victim was Kathleen Greening, who was found murdered outside St. Paul by her friend Carol Kellogg. They were supposed to go to Mackinac Island for a vacation together. When Carol arrived that morning, she knocked on the door and there was no answer. She let herself inside and would find Kathleen in the bathtub dead. Paul would later confess to drowning her in the bath in her home. This was the only murder he did not call the police about.
On August 6, 1982, his fourth victim, Barbara Simons, a 40-year-old nurse on the Minneapolis side of the Mississippi River. He met her at the Hexagon bar after Paul asked her for a cigarette. They spent several hours together at the bar, and then Barbara would later tell the waitress, "Paul was cute. I hope he's nice because he's giving me a ride home." She would be found stabbed over 100 times the next day in the Mississippi River with circular stab wounds. The medical examiner determined that she was stabbed with either an ice pick or a screwdriver. 2 days after the murder, Paul called police.
Fire emergency.
Please don't talk this lesson. I'm sorry I killed that girl. I stabbed her 40 times. Kimberly Compton was the first one. Over safe. I don't know what's the matter. I'm sick. I'm gonna kill myself. I think.
Where are you?
I'm just gonna. There's somebody died with a red shirt on. It's me. I killed both of them.
After the call, the police started to look into men who had violent records in the Twin Cities. They were able to narrow down their list to 8 men. They took the mugshots to the bar, and bar staff recognized Paul as being there with Barbara. Police began to set up a surveillance team and watch him. A few hours later, a call came in to the police. It wasn't Paul. It was a witness who claimed he saw a woman being stabbed with a screwdriver, and when he attempted to help her, he was threatened by the attacker.
On August 21st, 1982, Paul was able to lose their surveillance team and picked up Denise Williams, who was a 19-year-old sex worker in Minneapolis. Paul offered her $100 to have some fun, and they drove back to his apartment. She sensed something was wrong with Paul when he began driving through the dark suburban area rather than returning her back to the city where she was originally picked up. He turned on a dead-end road and pulled out a screwdriver and stabbed her with it. Denise picked up a bottle and hit Paul in the head and face several times. Denise would ultimately be stabbed 15 times.
Denise's screams caught the attention of a man who lived nearby, and when he saw Paul trying to stab Denise, again, he began to wrestle with him, causing him to flee the scene. The man called for an ambulance, and he would later help to identify Paul as the attacker. At the hospital, Denise was shown mugshots of several men and picked out Paul from the mugshots.
When Paul returned to his apartment, he noticed how badly he was bleeding. So he called EMS and stated, "I'm all cut up and I got beat up." The 911 operator recognized his voice. Police arrested Paul, who denied being involved in any of the attacks. However, when police showed him photos of the victims, his voice became all choked up and turned into the same kind of voice that they had heard so many times over the phone. Paul pleaded guilty to the assault of Denise and the murder of Barbara, but there wasn't enough evidence to charge him in the other attacks.
On February 28, 1984, during the trial for Barbara Simmons, Paul's ex-wife, sister, and a woman who lived with him at the time testified that they believed the hysterical caller that called the police after the attacks was Paul. He was convicted of the murder and attempted murder of Denise and was sentenced to 58 years.
In 1997, Paul had been diagnosed with skin cancer and given less than a year to live. It was at this time that he decided to confess to the murders of Kimberly Compton, Barbara Simons, and Kathy Greening. As long as he could have photos of his mother's gravesite, he would give the detectives all of the details and a full confession. Paul had not been considered a suspect in the murder of Kathy because there was no follow-up phone call after the fact, so police didn't know who murdered her and did not have him on the radar as a suspect. He would later die on June 12, 1998, of skin cancer in the Oak Park Heights prison.
Thanks for tuning in to Bloodstained Backstories. Don't forget to follow us on social media to stay updated, share your thoughts, and connect with fellow crime enthusiasts. You can catch us anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your go-to platform. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Join us next week as we uncover another chilling case. Until then, stay safe and stay curious.